Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a very late upload because today has been a bit of a chaotic day. Briar and I went out this morning to, well, we were looking for cologne, did not find the cologne. We did find tea for them, and I found a really cool fish decoration for me. We then went to Michael's because we want to try doing some acrylic paint pouring over pumpkins. And then we went to the fish store because I wanted to go ahead and finish out my schools and just finish up the fish tanks. We had done a massive water change before we left, couldn't find the wild type betas we had. We have two, or our two killifish. And I was like, okay, I'm sure they're okay. I couldn't find any of the big old fat Cory cats, even though I was poking around the substrate and everything. So maybe they're just hiding really well. And we get back later tonight. We were out most of the day. And while I'm acclimating the new fish to the tanks, we went all out. The tanks are fully stocked, got new plants too. I find one of the beta fish their body is just floating near the front. So that hit me pretty hard. And then I noticed a little while when I was trying to record this the first time, there is another little body, and it's the female killifish. So, pretty convinced that our other killifish and other wild type beta are dead. And today's just not a fun day. But yeah, and today's also a late night recording. I'm trying to get through a bunch of Minecraft today so that I can have something to post tomorrow and it'll look different from today. All that stuff. I can now see why Minecrafters on YouTube, this is a full-time job for them, because this is a lot of work. Plus I'm still trying to carry on with a normal life too, and other things as well. But I guess today I couldn't really decide what I wanted to focus on. I thought I would talk about my previous dog and how he helped me through so much, and like, this is why ESAs are important, etc., etc. But then I saw Wendy, the female killifish, and I've been completely thrown off track. I'm very excited because we're almost to 20 followers, 20 subscribers. Yeah, I'm not used to YouTube terminology, so 20 subscribers. And that is really exciting for me. I never thought I would have this many people, especially considering it's like a week, 2 weeks in since I've started really aggressively creating these vlogs. And I mean, I'm talking about all sorts of things, but the fact that you guys are listening to it is fascinating. I know I want to do more of these atheism or atheism apologetics, I think I might call them. I want to try and get into some story times as well, as I feel like there is a lot from my past that could be found relatable and may help other people. I want to talk more about fish and shrimp. I'm really hoping that some of our buried shrimp are going to lay and we'll have fry, and I might be able to start some breeding, so that would be fun to record. But I'm struggling a bit to figure out what to talk about today that's not terribly depressing. But maybe that is just the sort of content for today. So, I guess maybe I will talk about Chase. He was my previous dog. He died in right around Christmas a couple years ago, 2019, before everything happened. And I had him since I was 16 and he was 6 months old. He's been with me through a lot. Through my last and first serious relationship in high school, when I was still pro-military and good Christian girl, and I tried to help this boy get into the Marine Corps. Even my dad tried to help. My dad was in the Marines. I think he got to like staff sergeant or something before he moved on to the National Guard. But this guy got rejected at first because he wasn't He had some sort of medical issue, but metal, come on. But this guy had some sort of medical issue, and my dad was willing to talk to the recruiter, but this boy just gave up, so I broke up with them. And ultimately, that was a good thing because he ended up marrying someone my sister's age, and that's a big deal when you're significantly. Um, he was like 19 and she was 17, so very significant difference as of against today. And so very good. He's got at least one, maybe two children now. I don't really pay attention to him anymore. Then Chase started having issues going to the bathroom inside the house when my parents were divorcing. He was reacting to the stress of the situation. By that point, I had moved into an apartment of my own, so he came with me. And so he was with me when I first met my ex fiance, then also when I was struggling with graphic design and getting into those courses. He went up with me to Illinois and he was with me through all of that. And that was a really negative experience that I may talk about one day. He was also with me when we moved back down to Alabama and I switched from graphic design to printmaking. And he got a lump on his ear that turned out to be skin cancer, and then it came back. Like, I got rid of most of his ear. It almost made me bankrupt. At that time, I wasn't talking to my mom, so I didn't have anyone. God, I remember this. So this is actually the reason why I cut contact with my mom. Not just because of the trans stuff, but because there was a couple of weeks where I was trying desperately to talk to her because I was no longer talking to my dad at this point, but she was the one person that I had always gone to for advice and for help. Like the one constant in my life because I always had issues making and keeping friends and making and keeping other significant relationships. But my mom, well, she was always there, even if she did things that hurt me. But I couldn't reach her, and I'd be like trying to call her, trying to text her. I'd leave brief messages to try and not make everything sound too concerning. And the only message I got back was something about her cat being sick, which of course is very sad. But when your dog is sick and you're about to drop a lot of money on surgery and he's been this rock in your life and you don't know if he's going to be okay after or if it's going to come back, and you're preparing to not drive, but fly out to Denver, Colorado, not Denver, but outside of Denver, Colorado, by yourself, and it's the first time you've had a flight by yourself, the first time you've been able to take a trip, and it's for printmaking on top of that, which you're still not very certain that you're good at. It was a lot, and because my mom never replied to anything, I ended up cutting contact with her right after I got back from Anderson Ranch, which was up in Aspen, Colorado. I also got like really sick in Aspen because I didn't know how to take care of myself with the altitude sickness, which is something my mom could have taught me because she actually met my dad in Denver. So, you know, she moved from Huntsville, Alabama with her fiance at the time, or husband, or whatever. Her husband at the time moved up to Denver, Colorado. Divorced him, met my dad. Could have helped. Anyway, so Chase ended up being okay, but then it came back, and I had no money, and I was trying to apply to grad schools. So I cut down how many grad schools I applied to just two, and I had to put him down. I fell apart. I was dating someone at the time, and I will use she, her pronouns because she was not aware of it, but I cracked her egg so that she ended up learning that she's trans after we dated. Um, but I was living alone at the time. My girlfriend wasn't there, and I just kind of broke. And it was a terrible time for that to happen because after the new year I went to a book arts conference and that should have been fun. I was in New Orleans. I'd never been in New Orleans before. I'd driven there. The bridge is terrifying. There was all these people taking me seriously as a book artist. They liked my work, which was really out of the blue for me. That's not normal. Not used to people liking my work. Um, and all I could think about was the fact that my best friend was gone. I got back from that. I actually left a day early because I couldn't handle being at the hostel anymore. The hostel was a terrible experience. It had really good reviews, which is why I stayed there. But like every day that I was there, they unmade my bed and took everything away. And so the second day, I put a stuffed animal down, hoping that maybe that would be a clue of, hey, don't take this stuff. It happened to be that stuffed animal was a stuffed animal I'd had since I was 3. And without Chase, it was kind of my only comfort object. And that disappeared. I looked for it every single day afterwards. And I ended up getting an email after I had left, after I like forewent my deposit for everything because I got done with whatever stuff for the conference that day. I was supposed to go the next morning for some more things, but I got back and I was like, I don't want to go upstairs into my bedroom and see that they took down my blankets and stuff again. At that point, everything was in my car. I was leaving everything there, but I had left the sheets and things because that belonged to the hostel. And I was like, I can't handle one more night of that. So I just got back to my car and I left. I drove all the way back home. Um, my girlfriend was there because she had been watching the cat and she left, and I just sort of stopped trying to exist. I would go to school, I would be at school, I would leave. Nothing felt real. My therapy appointments were depressing, and it eventually got to the point where my girlfriend suggested I move in with her, even though my lease wasn't up yet. And my therapist told me I needed to get on antidepressants because I had done everything right, but I was still obviously in a really bad place. And that's the story of how I got on antidepressants. After that, I also started working on a project that was a somewhat of a tribute to Chase. And things seemed to be looking up. But then March 2020 happened, and the day that my solo art show was supposed to open, the school shut down for COVID. And I guess just from there, I've kind of been on a downward spiral. I had been accepted to UArts. I had the highest scholarships possible, so half of my tuition was covered. And for grad school, that's really significant. Half of my tuition was covered. They were giving me a stipend. They were giving me a TA position. The TA position also offered a place to live. There was, I'd also been accepted to the University of Alabama. They also offered their highest scholarship, TA position, the works. I ended up going with UArts because I visited Philadelphia in 2019 and I fell in love with it. And I decided I wanted to try more experimental stuff, whereas Alabama, their book arts program is a lot more traditional book arts. So the hand-bound books with the leather binding, all of that fun stuff. It would have been great, but I really loved the UArts campus. Well, COVID hit, and slowly I watched as the cohort that I was supposed to be part of dwindled down to two. My TA position got revoked because there wasn't enough people to justify it. I broke up with my girlfriend, and I started living with Briar because I learned that my girlfriend's and my personality just didn't mesh well in a one-bedroom apartment, and I was still really depressed. And there's some other issues going on. I don't really want to talk about it. It's still a little sensitive. I might have touched upon it a little bit in the asexual, but whatever, you know. I might have touched upon it a little bit, but probably not a lot. So we moved up here, and I started working at CIS, which helps disabled people, intellectually, physically, developmentally disabled people become independent in the workplace. But that was slowly sucking my soul out between the fact that I only worked with these people. I never got to see others. And the scheduling is bad. That's why Briar is doing what they're doing, basically trying to create a union to make better pay, better scheduling, that sort of thing for their frontline workers. I had a really bad experience with a groomer, Maniac, which is one of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia, if you're not familiar. It's kind of a boho white person area, but I thought it was going to be cool, and it wasn't. And I started working with Avery's, which is a mobile groomer, but the depression didn't stop. So now I'm here. September, I had a major breakdown where I had talked to my boss. We were going to cut me down to grooming every other week and handling their social media presence. And I was going to try and focus on my art, but we had to get through to October. And then, like, at the very start of September, I was driving to work. Briar was with me because they were going to take the car. We have one car, and they needed it for something that day. I was driving to work, and I couldn't breathe. I'd been waking up with heart palpitations and just panic and not wanting to leave the bed. I was feeling very agoraphobic. It would lessen when I would get to the van and I would start working, but I would just be thinking about how I wanted to go home the entire time. Not really put as much care into the pets as I wanted to. But that day I just couldn't do it. I turned around and drove home. Briar called my boss, and I crawled into bed, and I basically didn't leave bed for 3 weeks. I got on new antidepressants, and that's about where we're at now. I'm trying really hard to get to a point where I feel like I can go back to work, but the idea of going back into the van fills me with such dread that I know I would be useless as a groomer. I feel like I could handle the social media accounts, but I'm also very scared that it's not going to be enough. I'm scared that, well, I'm positive this video is not going to do very well, but I'm scared that I'm going to stall out, or that I'll never start like the big project with the writing, or I will stop doing the more fun research anti-Christian stuff, because that's actually really fun. I'm scared that we're going to run out of our savings and I'm not going to have made anything of myself, and I'm going to be a failure as a husband and a man. And it's weird to think about it, but I guess things have been slowly going downhill since I had to put Chase down. And it's hard to admit that, especially because we got Nettle in June, so COVID shut everything down in March. Nettle's a COVID puppy. We got her in June, and she's fantastic. I love her. I wouldn't trade her for the world. She's obsessed with us, especially me. She's really a daddy's girl in that way. But I miss Chase. He would be 12 this year because he was born in 2009. And Shih Tzus on average are supposed to live 14 years. But I'm going to end it here. This is a really depressing and kind of a long video. I did a ammonia check on my tank, and it looks like it's still releasing ammonia. It's not as dangerous as when I first started the whole thing, but it's probably a good idea if in a couple of days I do another massive water change just to try and get it down a bit more. At least the fish are looking like they're pretty good, the ones that are, still alive. But I hope y'all have had a good day. Today was a really good day. I just kind of ended it on a sour note. I'm very excited about Fortinbras. I'm going to try to get some more done before I record for tomorrow. I haven't been on the Ace server at all today. That's a first in a few months, actually. But yeah, y'all stay hydrated. I'm going to go get some water myself. Take my meds. Bug Briar about some old D&D characters, and y'all have a good night. Bye.